Welcome to Central Plaza at Via Via. This plaza provides over 1 million passenger connections a year. It is the heart of our system, and we are thrilled and honored that we can have the heart of our system out of downtown on the west side. Our executive headquarters is here. We actually will have more routes increasing frequency, and we are honored and thrilled to partner with the WDC and to learn more about the Westside history that we embrace on a daily basis at VIA.
Right here you might have seen the new Paul Elizondo Mental Health Clinic. This is something the community's really excited about. Also, Shirley Gonzalez, Councilwoman for District 5, has a huge bond project that's called the Historic Gateway Project, and that's going to basically bring some refurbishment and some art, and they're going to redo the West Commerce and the Buena Vista bridges. And they're planning on doing a park underneath here to kind of clean up some of the blight and activate the area. And hopefully what the WDC is working on, we're working on a pilot project to convert some of the alleyways into nice linear trails.
The reason we're standing here is because there was a theater located here. It was called the Rex Theater. What's left? The projection booth, the ticket box, the restroom. The walls were corrugated metal. No roof, but we had seats. Price to come and attend this movie only cost 10 cents. You could purchase popcorn, sodas, and candy for 5 cents, and that was a great bargain. Our other alternative was to take the bus, go downtown to a segregated movie, enter in the back, go up in the balcony, and see a movie. Or go to the Far East Side and travel that distance to go to the Cameo or the Ritz Theater. But we chose, this is our neighborhood, and we chose to come to here. I continue to advocate for this community, although I don't live in the neighborhood. I live 5 miles from here. I organized the reunion on the park for the last 10 years. Also an active member of the West End Hope and Action Neighborhood Association, assisting community with events like the National Night Out and Community Walk to address serious needs in this neighborhood.
This is where we grew up. So there were 3 generations, 3 blended families trying to make it all work. And there were hard times, but it worked. What I wanted to do was to kind of paint a picture of how it was on the West Side during the 60s and the 50s and the 60s. So here we were on the wrong side of the tracks, a feared place, an isolated area. But it was a neighborhood where when people walked in front of a church, everybody made the sign of the cross, or they genuflected, and hats automatically came off their heads. Or if we drove by a church, we always also made the sign of the cross. If you went into a West Side home, you always saw at that time a picture of John F. Kennedy on the wall next to a picture of the Pope. So in this isolated, feared area of town, families celebrated everything, especially life itself. We made our own cascarrones, we made our own piñatas, our brothers made their own kites, and it was just a very warm and welcoming area. Everybody knew each other, everybody took care of one another. This was a part of town where even the gangs had this code of conduct. They had like their own 10 commandments practically. And one of them is like, thou shall always respect the good girls in the neighborhood. And so sometimes when my friends and I were walking and we were considered good girls, they would say, mira, ahí vienen las monjas. There comes the nuns. So that was the kind of neighborhood we had. Was it perfect? No. There was a lot of drugs. There was a lot of poverty, but it was a community. People knew each other. They spent most of their time outside watching kids play. I have beautiful memories. I've lived in several homes after I left the Westside. And I didn't leave it because I wanted to. There was no housing, nothing to rent, nothing to buy. But I didn't go very far because, you know, we don't ever want to leave our mamas.
The reason I'm here at Lanier is because this is where it all really started for me. Going into high school, this school was the very first school that allowed ninth graders to come to high school. Ninth grade at Lanier was at Tafoya Middle School, which is right next door. So in 1975, they decided to build this beautiful school for $6 million. My first influence at this school was my printing instructor. Mr. Fred Reininger would always tell us, be a leader, not a follower. You gotta believe in what you wanna do. So he was my very first inspiration. So coming to Lanier, I always thought, you know what, I'm gonna be different. I was the guy who sat over there all by himself. Then I couldn't do what I'm doing right now, no way, because I was extremely shy. I grew out of that, as you can see. After Lanier, I went to North Texas State University. My major was radio, television, and film. I always wanted to be a DJ. DJs don't make a lot of money, so everything changed. But I always kept my vocational printing experience in my pocket because working through college as a pressman in the printing industry helped pay for it. So printing was always something that I really always knew was really, really good at. Came back to San Antonio, fast forward 4 years later, 1987. I started in the industry again, in the printing industry, because that's what I was good at. I knew the radio, I knew the film, I knew all that stuff, but I was really good at printing. So I took printing. I started as customer service, then I moved on into sales. I loved sales. So I started working in the sales industry, in the printing industry. Got recruited by Fox Television. That was a great experience as well. Wanting to go on my own, wanting to start my own business. We have 2 publications, and I was very blessed to have that opportunity. This is what drives me every day. When I look at my wall and I see this, I'm like, things are tough, but I sure as hell not gonna give up.
My career started when I was 14. My father was a tile man. He did that kind of work, and I was his helper. But this time he said, "You're gonna go with me. I'm working for this man. You're gonna cut his yard." And that man turned out to be Porfirio Salinas. Porfirio Salinas was the most famous landscape artist in Texas. And I was 14. I was real impressed when I saw his work. He was very, very generous with me and invited me into his studio. And that's the first time that I saw a studio. He said, try and go to a school that has an art program. I won a scholarship with Warren Hunter, which Warren Hunter was a very famous watercolorist. I started to meet these mentors that were giving me good advice, and I think that probably if I have any success at all, I have to owe it to them because they kind of geared me into the right direction. Now have been shown all over the country, and my work has been published. San Antonio really has become an art center. In the 60s, 67, a group of us decided to create a Chicano art group. And that was also a big problem in a way because we didn't know how this thing was going to be accepted. We didn't want to create any problems or all that, but the Consafo group, I think, created this consciousness for the rest of the young artists that were coming behind us. And that has now really affected San Antonio in a way that the rest of the country now is looking at us. New York, in Soho, this is how it happened. Artists moved in and started doing things. And then coffee houses, and then little cool places started happening. And that's gonna happen here in the Westside right now. I have 52 offers for this house from God knows who, but I think that they're starting to see the handwriting on the wall is that in 10 years, I think this place is going to be a whole different place. Chicano is only an identity that you take because you participated in the movement. The movement was 10 years old, 60s to 70s. That was a real movement. After that, the organizations, all of the people that were dealing with the, with the politics kind of disappeared, but the arts remained.
The first location in this part of town was established in 1947 at a place they used to call La Casa Blanca. We had a clinic down here in Castro Road, Stella Maris Clinic, which was providing services to all the children in the area. If you could afford it, you couldn't afford it, it really didn't matter. That's our summer program, which becomes our year-round program. It has three aspects to it. One is a music program, a string program which we have just begun, modeled after the famous program out of Venezuela called El Sistema. Our instructor, Carolina Rodriguez, a Grammy Award winner because of her performance or her participation with the orchestra, is leading that program for us here with the kids. Secondly, it's a reading program. Reading program that's thematic, that's built around themes, so that children, especially during the summer, don't stop reading, just continue reading. And the third is a swimming program, because we think the physical development is important. Every year, it's getting bigger and bigger, and the organization is growing, and we're very proud of the work that we do. We believe that if we have good quality programming, the funding comes.